Yeah, go ahead, start it up.
Hello, hello, hello. Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Thank you so much for watching. I am here with my friend Grant Stern. I like to say that Grant is like a brother to me, which means I don't like to spend too much time with him. I always worry he's going to steal my inheritance. Grant and I go back a fair ways, and we work together on police accountability, government accountability. We had our most famous moment is when we challenged a checkpoint in Miami, and Grant was in the passenger seat. He watched me get arrested. He recorded everything. It was a great time together. We don't agree on everything. We have things we don't agree on, but we definitely believe the government should be accountable to the people and everything else. So, Grant, I gave a brief introduction, but the reason I asked Grant to come on is because I see Grant as sort of like super Democrat. He is Mr. Democratic Party in my world. He is a prominent figure in Miami and the Miami scene. He's a prominent Democrat, and I wanted to talk to Grant about his perspective on the Democratic Party and what I see as a war on Elon Musk by the Democratic Party. So, Grant, before we get into that, and there's a links in the description below to Grant's Twitter and to Grant's website. And to my Fair DUI book, which relates to Grant and our adventure in the checkpoint. So, Grant, could you tell the audience a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Thanks for having me on, Warren, of course. So, yeah, I'm the executive editor of Occupy Democrats. What does that mean? It means I run the news websites and I produce not a lot of the videos, but I produce a lot of video. At least I think it's a lot of video on the network. I do the America Speaks National Town Hall broadcasts on there. And we have a lot more to come, actually. I have like a lot of cool stuff in the pipeline for Occupy for this year. And I do a lot of things. I authored a half dozen books about the Democratic presidential nominees. I have a podcast studio down here in Miami. So, the time that we spent together is great because we really recorded not just like how these police officers were behaving and how crazy it was when you had like 20 cops surrounding your car.
I think it was 40.
Maybe it was like 25 or 30. I don't know. We counted them at one point.
It was a lot.
And they surrounded the car just to get you to come out peacefully when all you did was have a sign that say, I don't want to give you my license. And then they handcuffed you for like 3 hours and then gave you a ticket. And I was like, whoa, this is wild. But in the background, they were talking about how much they wanted to arrest me. And we recorded all of that because they put our camera right there on the evidence table. It was really kind of a wild experience.
Grant had this brilliant 360-degree camera that didn't shut off, and they didn't know how to shut it off. And so we recorded all these conversations they had. So there's some videos. If you search for Fair DUI, if you
Coral
search for
Gables,
Fair DUI, Coral Gables,
yeah.
And you search, and we were working in conjunction with a group called Photography is Not a Crime. There's a critical issue in government accountability that we believe that citizens are free to record police in the public sphere, not just police, but government officials generally in the public sphere.
And not just us, but the courts. Photography is a First Amendment right.
Right. And the courts have ruled in our favor, but government doesn't like it.
Not at all.
With that background, I wanted to turn our subject matter to something that I'm very passionate about today that we've never really talked about much in our days back, because this is going back 6 or 7 years when we challenged that checkpoint. And really quick, check out the t-shirt, Be Less Wrong. I'm going to try to be less wrong and listen to Grant. And hopefully Grant will try to be less wrong and listen to me. The t-shirts are at elonbits.com. I'm a little bit of an Elon Musk fan. My website for selling merch is elonbits.com, just to be clear. Little bit. And I drive a Tesla. So what I've seen, Grant, is roughly since Biden took office and maybe when he was campaigning, it seemed like the rhetoric of the Democratic Party started to attack Elon and Tesla, or at least ignore Elon and Tesla. Can I just ask you, what's your perspective as a Occupy Democrats Democrat on Elon Musk, on Tesla, on SpaceX, and all of that?
I mean, I'll tell you, like, the two words, the words Elon Musk and Democrats weren't really mentioned in a sentence until he decided to join the fray and try to buy Twitter. I just don't think there's any association at all. I mean, I could tell you right now that nobody was telling me from Washington, D.C., we've got to do something about this Elon Musk problem. More like everybody in D.C. is like, how could we give out more credits for people to buy more of his cars? I mean, Democrats have always been supportive of Elon Musk. That's where his start came from, this controversial loan program that President Obama executed. It had a 2% or less default rate. One of those companies was Solyndra. And boy, I could tell you right now, probably all of your viewers know who Solyndra was,
Probably
but
not.
nobody's going to be able to tell you that Tesla benefited from that program. But that's the truth. And so, Democrats have, as a general population, never had a problem with Elon Musk at all. The big issue, the number one issue that Democrats have with Twitter, and it's not even with Elon, is that they're happier that Trump is not there because he fomented a armed insurrection against the Capitol of the United States. And his own lawyer, just this past weekend, John Eastman, defending himself and saying that he should have attorney-client privilege, made a lot of filings saying that Donald Trump was personally directing X, Y, and Z. Now, we don't know what X, Y, and Z is because he's claiming privilege, right? But still, I mean, this person wrote on Twitter that the people that sacked the Capitol were beautiful. I mean, he didn't do anything about it for several hours. And he said that this is what happens when an election is stolen. Okay, that was his last really significant tweet. I mean, I guess maybe he stayed on for after, but
let me just pause you here.
Crazy stuff.
The way I started off was that I said that the Biden administration in particular, Elon got along very well with the Obama administration. There's no question about it. He was friends with Rahm Emanuel, Zeke Emanuel. He worked with the Obama administration.
But he didn't need anything.
Hang on. I think people give the Obama administration more credit and the government more credit than they should for what Tesla has done. But let's leave that aside. Before to the Twitter thing, Joe Biden held 2 electric vehicle summits and did not invite Tesla to the electric vehicle summits. He invited GM, Ford, and Stellantis. He said that Mary Barra, the CEO of GM, led the electric vehicle revolution. The Biden administration avoided mentioning Elon Musk by name. They avoided mentioning Tesla by name. They avoided mentioning SpaceX by name. SpaceX is delivering astronauts to the space station, something that we could not do without Russian rockets, except for SpaceX. So the snub, and then you have Elizabeth Warren, Robert Reich, and Bernie Sanders on a merciless attack against Elon for years. But the idea that the Democrats only started being angry at Elon after the Twitter thing, then explain to me why Joe Biden snubbed Elon and Tesla for the EV summits.
I think you should do a FOIA and find out what really happened there, if that's the case.
No, I'm asking you. You're Mr. Democrat.
Why did Joe Biden?
Why did Joe Biden snub Elon and Tesla for the EV summits? Why would the Biden administration refuse to mention Tesla's name or Elon's name for over a year? What's before the Twitter thing? Why is that?
I think you're seeing some union politics play out if that's the case. And that's because, as everybody knows, Joe Biden is trying to promote unionization and Elon Musk does not like that. But don't you see how if Elon Musk was mentioned at all of those places, then it would be the president promoting unionization. So he's like, well, I'm not going to talk about this.
Well, why didn't they call it? Why did they call it?
That's not.
Why did they call it an EV summit if it was a union summit?
Oh, well, I don't know. I'm not privy to that. And I don't know if they invited Elon Musk or not.
No, they did not. They deliberately did not invite Tesla to these summits. They were questioned about it. They ducked it. But Tesla doesn't
have a public relations department anymore. And this is the problem when you have people that say, well, I am going to just do this. I mean, there you go. Maybe there just wasn't the person to contact. I think that you're jumping to a higher level conclusion quickly.
You know better than that.
I do know better than that. And I can tell you how hard it is to book anything with anybody in Washington, D.C. It is difficult. My last show last week that was with a congressperson got canceled over some votes we didn't think were going to happen.
So you're saying that Biden didn't invite
That's just
Elon.
One congressman.
You're saying that Biden didn't bring Tesla to the EV summit because they couldn't figure out who contacted Tesla.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying we don't know, but there's a range of things that are plausible, okay? Because I haven't reported on this, but I'm going to tell you this right now. Knowing the politics of unions in the Democratic Party, which is something that I think that I know better than the average person on the street, I would say this, that inviting Elon would turn the event into unions versus Elon, and that was undesirable. So if Elon Musk, is upset or snubbed or feels snubbed because of that, the flip side is they didn't want to have an adversarial situation. And preventing that sometimes means just saying, hey, we're going to do one thing and then another. And I don't know what communications went on there, right? but maybe Elon turned them down. Maybe, like you said, I
No.
think that
They were not. There's no question. It was reported in the media. The Biden administration. This is CNN saying it, that the
okay,
Biden administration snubbed Tesla, not Elon, for the event.
okay.
And so here's the thing. There's this spin that
But
the
I'm just
Democrats are
telling you
taking.
that there's a very particular reason why if like I'm putting myself into the shoes of a DC Democrat trying to navigate these waters. And I'm going to tell you right now, here's the truth of it. You'd say, I want to do an EV summit, and they'd say, okay, invite all the unionized whatever, and then they'd go to those guys. Is this going to be okay if we invite this other guy? And they're going to go, well, I mean, you just have to think about it. You're saying, well, he's going to have this event and invite a bunch of lions to the den. Should we invite the Christians too? I mean, I have no horse in this race. I'm just explaining that they would want to avoid a clash.
Okay, so
And that's how they would, that's the framing. I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, but I'm just saying, like, I could imagine that framing happening.
so let's turn to Twitter.
Sure.
I want to avoid the question of whether January 6th was an armed insurrection versus a mostly peaceful protest. We can have that conversation.
People have pled guilty to armed seditious conspiracy recently.
I'm just going to avoid that because I think it could be argued that it was a mostly peaceful protest, but I don't want to go there. I want to go to Twitter.
That is not how Stuart Rhodes's wife described it. But go ahead.
I'm not. Just to be clear, I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm a registered Democrat. To be clear to my Republican followers, sure. I'm a registered Democrat, so I can vote in Democratic primaries, which decides who's going to be the elected official where I live.
Palm Beach County.
In Palm Beach County and Broward County, the Democrat wins. So by voting in the Democratic primary, I have a role in deciding who gets to serve in office. If I was a registered Republican or Libertarian, I wouldn't have an influence over the election. Not that it's much of an influence. But you have this moment with Twitter, and you and I are fans of free speech. You and I are fans of open government, open conversation. Sure. So Elon acquires Twitter, and before Elon moves to acquire Twitter, people were complaining that Twitter was suppressing speech, and the Democratic line was, well, it's a private company, they can do what they want. Now Elon's acquiring Twitter, and Elon's going to do what he wants with this private company, and all of a sudden Democrats are upset that a private company is going to do what it wants. What's the problem? Why is it bad if Elon takes over Twitter and promotes free speech on Twitter?
So let me tell you a couple of things. And first of all, I want to highlight one very important point. I think that people freaked out without having a real reason to freak out. They freaked out based on a lot of inferences before they knew anything. And I think that people who freaked out before knowing anything did themselves a disservice. I'm very open-minded, and from the outset, I've said that Elon Musk could be good for Twitter, but my big question about Elon Musk and Twitter is this. Like, wasn't it really important that Elon engineer like great spaceships and, a mission to Mars, and now he's like, well, I'd just rather buy Twitter instead? I'm kind of like, isn't that a waste? Like, couldn't he keep doing the other stuff?
He is doing the other stuff.
Right. But I mean, the market has already given the signal that they don't think that Elon can handle Twitter and the other stuff. And the signal has been very sharp. Right. That's all I'm saying.
The whole market is down. The Democratic Party is orchestrating. The Democratic Party is orchestrating a media assault and hit jobs on Elon and Tesla.
Okay, hold on.
Your people are promoting the hashtag boycott Tesla.
Okay, you know what? That happened.
Right?
I didn't promote it. But I'm telling you that happened, and it's not whether I did it or Democrats did it or whatever.
Well, the Republicans aren't doing it. The Democrats are doing it.
Yeah, but those are his customers, and he's upset them. And as a business person, he's taking sides. And now he's like, I am definitely taking a side.
Wait.
Against a lot of my customers.
No.
I think that's
he
bad
moves
business.
to acquire Twitter, and the Democratic Party starts attacking him.
I'm just saying it's bad business. Okay, what he's doing is not good for his business. The market is punishing him for
offending the government is bad business, is what you're saying.
He didn't offend any government. He offended the market. And guess what? The market reacted. And you're like, well, the whole market is down since Elon did this. And I'm like, yeah, I think Elon drove the whole market down. I think he kind of like hurt market confidence when Tesla went down. Because a lot of people
Elon
bet
cause
a lot
the
of money on
inflation?
Tesla.
Did Elon cause the inflation?
No, but a lot of people bet a lot of money on Tesla. And when that stock dropped really, really sharply, I think that there was a knock-on impact for a lot of people that were leveraged with it.
That's an interesting theory.
I mean, the SEC is out there
And full
enforcing this
disclosure,
agreement.
just full disclosure for people in the audience who don't know me, I am very, very heavily invested in Tesla. I drive a Tesla. My YouTube channel is largely about Tesla. So I am as big of an Elon fanboy and Tesla fanboy as you get. I'm actually a bigger fan of SpaceX than Tesla. But go ahead. Sorry.
So no, it's cool. It's cool. It's one of these things where the market reacted to it. It reacted really fiercely. Okay. And that was a big signal. And so what's happened since then, and I want to go into what's happening as much as like the debate around it. Okay. So you see that he's posturing. He's like, oh, there's too many fake accounts, this, that, and the other. And I just want to say, I wrote an article that Huffington Post featured on the front page of their business section back in 2013. And the title that they gave it was, "Will Twitter Curb Its Market for Fake Followers in the Wake of IPO?" And this was in 2013. And the fake followers are bots. So the bot problem is as old as Twitter is as a public company. And I wrote about it even back then.
Yeah.
I think the issue here is that when Tesla was at its prior valuation, Elon easily had enough money to borrow against the shares, swallow up Twitter, and then turn it into his private kingdom. And I think that freaked people out. Having the person with the loudest voice and actually owning the company could change the character of the social network forever. And let's be real here. Giving one person ultimate sway over everything like that is concerning.
Doesn't
right?
Mark Zuckerberg have ultimate sway over Facebook? Why is one person having ultimate sway? Jeff Bezos has ultimate sway over Washington Post. Why is this a big deal all of a sudden?
Okay, Jeff Bezos doesn't exercise ultimate sway over the
Elon is not planning to exercise ultimate sway. He just wants free speech on the platform.
Hear me out. I don't think he is. And I don't think he has any choice either, because he's not going to be the overlord because of what the market did. The market basically signaled, if you do this by yourself, you're going to fuck it up. And they reduced the value of Tesla. They're like, we're just writing off the fact that you're going to hurt Tesla by doing Twitter. And he's gone and proceeded to, I think, hurt the Tesla brand with
no. Elon has not hurt the Tesla brand. This is the Democratic Party machine and its operatives and its media attacking the Tesla brand. Elon hasn't done anything to hurt the Tesla brand.
Grassroots. This is all coming from the grassroots.
Oh, come on.
And you introduce a stimuli. Look, it's really simple. You introduce a stimuli, somebody reacts. Don't get upset that their reaction is not what you wanted and say they're out to get you. That's what's happened here. There's been this stimulus. I'm going to buy Twitter. And all of a sudden he turned himself into a lightning rod and he's been struck. And he said, you know what he said? And this is kind of, I think this explains more than anything else. He said, I'm reclaiming the platform for radical moderates, right? Didn't he say radical moderates?
I missed that one.
He said, yeah, I mean, he did say he's reclaiming the platform for moderates. Okay. And so,
he said if it's run well, it should offend the 10% of the extreme left and the 10% of the extreme right. That 10% of the extreme left and 10% of the extreme right would be unhappy if Twitter is a free speech platform.
Okay, but he says he's reclaiming the platform for moderates. And there's an old saying.
I know that's a terrible thing.
And you know what else he said? No, it's not a terrible thing. But there's a dynamic to what he's talking about. Remember that tweet he posted with the really misleading meme that says that the whole world has moved to the left and now he's right of center, which is kind of not the case. Actually, the biggest political movement in America has been to move the Republican Party to the very extreme right.
Let's take this. In what way has the Republican Party moved? I didn't really want to go there, but tell me in what way the Republican Party has moved to the right. On what issue? Is it abortion? Is it gay rights? Tell me where they've moved to the right.
All of the above. You can
wait. They were anti-abortion before. They were anti-gay marriage before. Now they support gay marriage. So where did they move to the right on these issues?
They do not actually. You're saying, but here's the point.
Donald Trump said that Caitlyn Jenner could use whatever. Trump is you're saying Donald Trump is the leader, the hated leader of the Republican Party. Donald Trump said Caitlyn Jenner could use whatever bathroom she wants in his buildings. There's plenty of gay Republicans. There's plenty of gay married Republicans.
Look,
Dave Rubin is now considered right wing by the radical left when Dave Rubin is a gay man married to I think he might be married to a black man. I forget it's Milo Yiannopoulos is married to a gay black man. I mean, there's plenty of gay people in prominent positions on the right.
Milo is the foreign national. He's not even a member of the Republican Party.
But how is the Republican Party moved to the right if they're more supportive of gay rights than they were in the past? If they're
because that was a very transitory. That
And
was
there's
transitory. And
and then
let me just go with the original premise here, okay? Elon keeps saying, I want to be the moderate. I'm the moderate. I'm the moderate. He says, I'm moderate. The left is too left now. I'm moderate. That's what he's tweeting about. And there's an old saying in politics, and he's ignoring it. And what you're seeing right now is the result. Stand in the middle, get run over. There's an old saying about this. Stand in the middle of the road, get run over. Okay? And he's standing in the middle of the road.
so
Congratulations.
you support the Democrats running over moderates.
No, I don't. But I'm saying that he is trying to stand in the middle of the road by standing much further to the right side. Okay,
On what issue?
On
what issue is he to the right?
Look, if you think that free speech absolutism should be the law of this country, and that's what free speech means, then let me know when the body of law governing the United States turns into an absolute free speech state.
No,
We are not.
he wants as much free speech as possible on Twitter within the laws as they exist.
So do I. But the laws as they exist are that as a private platform, you can decide freely who to associate with. The First Amendment applies to Twitter. Twitter has the right to say, I don't want to associate with you or not. So
Right.
he could become highly selective. The laws actually could say, hey, he could decide to ban all the left-wing people, and that would be fine. Twitter would be allowed to do that as a private platform. This conflation of the First Amendment and private business, it's like it's always backwards. The First Amendment protects the private business. The First Amendment gives the private business the right to say, no, Mr. President, we will not carry your government message.
Okay, so let me ask you this.
So what we already have right now is a free speech according to the First Amendment. I don't see what his change is, but a lot of people have said he has a philosophy, an ideology of First Amendment absolutism. And absolutism.
Oh, he says it. He says he's a free speech absolutist. He said that himself.
Well, what does that mean? What does that mean?
He's explained that on as far as Twitter goes.
So does that mean that we can have child pornography on Twitter when
no,
Elon
anything
Musk
that's
takes
illegal is
over?
not. No, anything.
But why not? That's speech.
But
There's a photograph taken.
You're not letting me finish.
Okay.
The answer to your question is what he said was he is a free speech absolutist within the law. Twitter under his rule, under his ownership. Hang on. Twitter under his ownership would allow speech, any speech that's allowed by law, and any speech that's not allowed by law would not be allowed. So child pornography would not be allowed on Twitter. You're just bringing up some sort of scare tactic to avoid the fact that he just wants free speech on the Twitter platform as much as possible.
I asked you what free speech absolutism meant, and I proposed an example of free speech that is criminalized. Okay, we have criminal laws preventing the possession, transmission, very importantly, transmission and photography.
Are you suggesting?
Pornography, for example.
Just to be clear, are you suggesting that Elon is pro-child pornography?
Not at all. What I'm suggesting is that nobody knows what free speech absolutism from Elon Musk really means.
He said it. He said what it means.
Within the law, but absolutism is the opposite of saying within boundaries. There's a contradiction there.
No, there isn't. He said Twitter will allow whatever speech is legal, and anything that's not legal will not be allowed.
Well, why do you think Twitter takes down harassive speech and hate speech?
Why did Twitter take down the New York Post article about Hunter Biden's laptop?
Why?
Yes. Was it illegal? Was the article illegal?
Because they're a platform.
Was the article illegal? You just said they take down illegal stuff. Was the article illegal?
By the terms of service of Twitter, they're allowed to
that's not the
do
question.
Anything they want inside.
You're claiming
legal
that they
or
should
illegal. That's the question. Is it legal under their terms of service?
Was the article false?
Don't know.
Yes, you
I
do.
don't have it here in front
you know
of me.
the article was true. You know the Hunter Biden
listen,
laptop
man.
story is true. The New York Times has admitted the story is true.
You know what I've read, and I've read a lot about this, and I've actually. Do you remember that the one of the relatives of the shop owner said that there's something fishy going on recently?
What?
Yeah. Yes, that's right. One of the close-in people with the Hunter Biden laptop story came out publicly and said that there's something fishy about the laptop itself, right? And the fishy thing is that it wasn't his laptop, but they were his emails.
Whatever. All right.
No, but anyway. So my point being, Twitter exercised its free speech right in deciding what it's going to carry on its platform.
Right, and if
whether
Elon
it's
takes
true
over,
or
then
false, hold on. Whether it's true or false, the legal question is: did they abide their own terms of service in doing it? And I would say the answer is yes, because if it was no, the Post would have sued them and won pretty easily, don't you think?
Well,
New
why
York
is
courts are very liberal, right?
Uh, I don't think I'm not contending that the Twitter wasn't legally allowed to take down the New York Post story.
Well, there you go.
What I'm contending is that it would be a better platform if it allowed free speech within the limits of the law. And taking down the New York Post story and taking Alex Berenson off Twitter and banning R.W. Malone off Twitter. There's a lot of people who've been banned from Twitter. I've been banned from Facebook, which is a whole nother story.
But let's talk about that for a second, okay? So here you have someone who is a scientist who's going around telling everybody that he's the first author on the first paper about the mRNA vaccine.
Yeah, now, I don't want to get into that. I want to avoid that. I want to avoid that because of YouTube. I don't want to go into this topic because of YouTube censorship. YouTube is censorship too, and I don't want to get into that topic. Well, I just wanted to get to the point that they're taking people off the platform. So with Elon in charge, they'll allow people on the platform.
Yeah,
and
but
YouTube has censorship too. But
I
want to get to this.
Talking about them. I want to get to this. Off of platforms for spreading disinformation.
As I understand what you're saying is because Elon decided to take over Twitter and restore what I would argue is free speech to the platform. You say that the Democrats have now decided that Elon is the enemy, and the Democrats have come for him. So my question to you, first of all,
decided that Elon is the enemy. They're upset with
Of course
Elon.
they have.
They're upset.
Okay,
listen,
so
he knew he was going to upset some people. If you think that Elon Musk did not think he would upset some people,
so I'm just going to ask you this question.
That's free speech too.
All right, let me turn it this way. Tell me a prominent national Democrat who has said something good about Elon in the last year, or Tesla, or SpaceX.
Me.
Okay.
Me.
Where did you say it publicly?
Actually, as soon as he said that he was going to buy Twitter, I said, well, if he treats this as a business decision, this may be not so terrible. Like, it's just the bigger problem is that everybody anticipated and then created this like mass self-fulfilling prophecy that as soon as Elon got involved with Twitter, that he would bring Trump back and make the platform, start injecting ideology, a lot of ideology into the way that Twitter is run. Ideology, in other words, this free speech absolutism.
This horrible free speech ideology, I understand.
Absolutism. Absolutism is the horrible part. Free speech is great. Okay. But when you take absolutism and you apply it to anything, that's the same as extremism. That's black and white.
So you think that the radical left should decide what speech is okay?
No.
Well, that's who's running Twitter right now.
Oh, really?
Yes.
The radical left is running Twitter.
Who's running Twitter?
Dude, I don't know.
Where's the company based?
I don't have. They're based in San Francisco. That doesn't mean they're all left wing. You know what city has the most Republicans in the country? Los Angeles. Okay. Like, people don't think of California that way. It's just so damn big. But you do have some diversity of opinion.
It's odd that it's not New York City. Isn't New York City a bigger city? Population-wise, I think New York's a bigger city. Los Angeles has got the county's big, the city isn't.
Yeah, well, guess what? Los Angeles has like just a ton of them. I mean, a ton of Republican voters, and so does California. California
so let me just ask you this:
12 million Republicans. That's bigger than almost every other state in the union.
So you're a self-identified prominent Democrat. Can you tell me some good things? Because I don't hear any Democrats saying good things about Elon Musk. Can you tell me some good things that Elon Musk has done in the last 5-10 years?
What? I mean, a lot of things. The SpaceX company is amazing. Like, I can't name a single thing that he's done wrong or bad there. I mean, he's really like doing a service to the country, like helping us have a private space industry. And I think that the private space industry is kind of like long overdue. They're more willing to take risks, yet they've actually managed risk better in some ways so far than the public programs, which had too much complexity in the search of limiting risk that created its own risk. So, like, he's done a lot there. I mean, Tesla, the big thing that he's done is popularizing electric vehicles. And what have Democrats done in response? The bipartisan infrastructure bill that Joe Biden passed with, 19 Republican votes in the Senate and about 10 in the House is the most important bill for Elon Musk of this generation, because it creates a national electric it gives money to build a national electric car charging infrastructure similar to what we have for gasoline powered cars now.
Didn't Elon say it shouldn't be passed?
I don't know why.
Because
I
well,
mean,
number one, Tesla already has an electric charging infrastructure, and number two,
okay.
The spending in the bill was too much, and it's probably something that's contributing to the inflation we're seeing now is government
It
overspending.
absolutely is not. I mean, relative to other major economies like the EU, for example, our currency is appreciating right now, which creates trade difficulties because our stronger currency, now takes
Are
more
are you
more
saying we don't
currency
have
from the
inflation?
outside. Hear me out. Our currency is appreciating against other economies because their inflation is worse. We have inflation, but relative to other economies, it's actually not as bad. Okay. And obviously, Brexit is a one off situation, but still, our inflation problem is much, much more mild than the UK's right now. Right. And other economies are experiencing this all at the same time because it's a snapback from COVID. You, you withdraw all the demand from the market when COVID arrives. Then you bring in the government support to try and support demand, and it works, but you still had this massive shock, right? And now we're on the rebound, the other side of the shock. Now there's too much demand and not enough supply because people weren't working when the government filled in the gap with the price supports to keep everybody out of the breadline. Because what we learned in the Great Depression is that it's more important to preserve the social fabric of functioning places against a external shock rather than say, let everything crash. We can all go to the breadline, and 20 years from now, we'll be out of the breadline, maybe a war or two later. Right. And so this shock that we're experiencing, it sucks. It sucks. I mean, and how could Joe Biden have prevented the Suez Canal from being blocked for 10 days? That was another
No, I don't.
horrible, horrible supply chain event.
Just to be clear, I don't blame Joe Biden for the inflation any more than I blame Joe Biden and Donald Trump and Barack Obama. I think the policies that have been going, and George W. Bush, I think the policies that we've been seeing over the last decades are the cause of the inflation, not something in particular that Joe Biden has done. It's bipartisan.
And by the way, Joe Biden has cut the national budget deficit
Yeah, sure.
tremendously in the last couple of years.
Did he cut spending?
Not look, that's not the same thing. The
I know.
annual deficit, okay, annual deficit.
Yeah, I know. They can play funny with the numbers all they want. The government, and this is one of my big criticisms of Republicans. Ronald Reagan doubled federal spending and tripled the debt. Donald Trump massively increased. George W. Bush massively increased federal spending. Donald Trump massively increased federal spending. I don't blame that on the Democrats. I blame that on the Republicans. Just to be clear, I just don't think the Democrats have cut spending either. And you probably know I've said this before. I think the best fiscal president of the last however many years was Bill Clinton. Even though I disagree with him on some issues, I think he's pretty clearly his administration was the best on fiscal issues of any administration in modern memory that I can think of.
Yeah, and then Bush came in and was the worst on fiscal issues. It was
I think Reagan was worse than Bush. But
Bush was massive tax cut and spend.
No, but Reagan doubled federal spending and tripled the debt.
Yeah, but Bush did all of that and then some because he started these forever wars and they were funded.
I agree.
And the thing is that from 2003 through 2006, every single war appropriation was on an emergency basis. Nobody knew how much America was spending, period.
Okay, so let me bring this back to Elon Musk. What I see is Elon starts the process of acquiring Twitter, and the Democrats lose their shit, for lack of a better term. And I mean national Democrats. I don't just mean, the White House talked about it. Psaki talked about it in a press conference, didn't name Elon by name, but talked about it in a White House press conference. The National Democratic Party has taken aim at
the
Elon
press
Musk.
wanted to ask about it.
Your claim that it's a grassroots thing is no offense, is nonsense.
Oh, definitely a grassroots thing.
100%. This is coming right from the top. And I'll tell you, let me advance a theory for you. Okay. And it's the same theory about the litigation department that Elon just announced that Tesla's creating. That we see what happened right now with it turns out that Hillary Clinton pushed this Russia collusion story that turned out to be false. Okay. What's going to happen is if Elon takes over Twitter, he gets access to the internal documents that show who was influencing Twitter. So you're saying it's not the radical left. You're saying it's not the Democratic Party that's deciding what speech is allowed. And what I'm saying is what's likely to happen is if Elon takes over Twitter and he gets access to the internal documents, he's able to show that the Democratic Party itself was influencing what's going on at Twitter. Just like, wasn't it during the debate? There was like a Democratic Party debate and they were feeding questions to Hillary Clinton. Was it like a CNN debate? She got advance notice of the questions.
I'm going to tell you right now that the day you prove that theory, you will also genetically engineer the first flying pig.
Don't put it.
I mean,
Elon could
seriously.
do. Hey, Elon could do that. Elon could
Okay,
do that.
okay, I will. Yeah, I would give better odds of Elon doing that than you
Okay, and then the
proving that
litigation
theory.
department, when they get inside the media, when they
Hold on
get
a
inside
second. Hold
Business
on.
Insider, when they get inside the New York Times, they're going to find emails from Democratic leadership or from Bill Gates,
Okay,
who's got
okay,
a
that's
short
it.
on
I'm
Tesla.
calling. I'm calling the shirt. I'm calling the shirt. Your shirt. Okay, so
ElonBits.com for the shirt.
first of all, you want to talk about a tempest in a teacup? Uh, a political pundit who was the. I'm sorry. She was the anyway, a political pundit at CNN said to Hillary Clinton, when you go to Flint, Michigan, they're going to ask about the lead in the water. Everybody knew that already, Warren. Everybody.
Why'd she tell her? Presumably
Because
Hillary
she probably
already
figured everybody knew. So anyway, that's first thing. I mean, this is not like some major insider tip. Second of all, as far as Trump Russia goes, if you want to know who influenced people on it, hey, you're already talking to one of those people. I've had people come at me and say, hey, we did a statistical analysis of who moved people on Trump Russia, and you were one of those people. I'm like, damn. So it wasn't Hillary Clinton because I wasn't.
So you're proud. So you're proud of pushing a false story?
Absolutely nothing I pushed is false.
Well, the Russia collusion story is false.
They had a meeting with Donald Trump's entire political team in his political campaign office during the election with a Russian lawyer, okay, linked to the Russian government very, very closely, right? A Russian lawyer that was basically defending this private case, but everything in Russia is different, right? Like the ties between business and this, her relatives. It's all involving the Russian railways. And so they all had this meeting and it was all secret. And there's a funny story about this that I'd like to share with you and all the readers. So I published a story in early June of 2017. And the title was Trump's personal lawyer lied. He does have ties to Russian oligarchs. And we put a picture of him sitting at a table with a Russian real estate magnate named Agalarov. All right.
I really am an Elon fanboy, by the way.
Oh, I could see that. I mean, I knew that already.
ElonBits.com for the bug.
Good plug. Bring it. So I published this story and there's a picture, right? And there's Cohen in the corner and the Russian guy on the other side. And then Trump is talking with these two younger people, like in the middle that are, or what, not younger, but two people that are, and I published the story and Michael Cohen immediately blocks me on Twitter. And I was like, why is he blocking little old me, right? But when somebody does that, it's a huge signal to me as a journalist. Uh-oh, this hit home, right? And so a month later, this big meeting with Donald Trump and Trump's team, and the Russians emerges, right? Donald Trump, Trump Jr., Don Jr. puts out the smoking gun emails. Hey, we had this meeting. We were trying to get dirt on Hillary Clinton. If it's what you say, we love it, right? We have the picture in the Michael Cohen story was Rob Goldstone, the person who set up that meeting. Trump was in the picture talking with Goldstone there. So you can understand why we'd have reason to believe, based on strong circumstantial evidence, him actually knowing the person who set up this meeting with this infamous Russian lawyer, now infamous Russian lawyer. I mean, these people were reacting in real time to us revealing that detail.
Let's just bring this back, though, to the Democrats. And let's bring this back to the Democrats and Elon Musk and Tesla and SpaceX.
Let's bring it back to, hold on. Elon Musk has a much different Twitter deal today than he maybe did even a month ago. And I'm going to tell you why. Okay? When the shares of Tesla were so high that he could swallow the whole thing by himself on a margin loan, he could do whatever he wanted. Now, the reason why he's delaying is because he needs partners. He's getting financing. He's bringing in a lot of partners, not just one or two. Okay, he's talking with a Saudi prince.
He's not financing it on margin. He sold stock.
For his share, but he's not putting up all 44 million himself.
No, of course not. He's got investors already on board.
But not, of course not. At the outset, people thought he's going to swallow this up. Now, he's going to have the discipline of the debt. He's going to have other investors. The platform's going to have to be run like a business, because if it's not, Elon says, I don't care about financials, right?
No,
and maybe for a few quarters, his team will stomach him not making as much money. But if you ask me, the smartest course of action for Elon Musk, okay, is taking a few of his good ideas for Twitter, adding an edit button, changing the way Twitter Blue works, doing a few, trying to kill the bots or at least identify them and stop the mills from creating new ones, expanding the identification system. A lot of things that he said that could be done. They're technically demanding. They require losing money for a little while because you have to build something big, and Wall Street doesn't like that. And so unfortunately, private companies have the nimbleness that public companies oftentimes don't. A public company has the discipline of the market, which is much more harsh than the discipline of the debt, but the discipline of the debt is no joke. And so,
I know Elon
venture.
made comments that it wasn't about money, but the
And
practical
he's
reality
going
is,
to re-IPO it.
but
He's
the
going to
practical
re-IPO it in 2 years.
The practical reality is that he always had plans to make it run more efficiently and run better. And he specifically talked fairly early on. He pointed to some video where I think it was Carl Icahn talked about taking over a company, and there was this building with 13 floors, and he couldn't figure out what anybody did. And he talked to the COO after like several efforts to figure out what they did. And the COO said, I don't know what they do either. They fired all 13 floors and nobody noticed. And I think Elon has talked about they're going to clean house at Twitter. That is
what's called an apocryphal story. In other words, unless there's an actual reality to it, it probably did not happen.
But regardless, he's going to clean house at Twitter, get rid of the dead wood, make the company run more efficiently. That's always what his plan was.
But regardless, that's the kind of apocryphal story that forms the basis of an ideology. You might as well get the Bible and use the Bible to decide how you're going to run Twitter if that's how you're going to run a company.
I just thought it was a funny quote.
His investors
I think it was just a funny quote. No, he's
going to fire. Look, he's going to fire 20% of the company. I'm going to predict that now. Why? Economics. Yeah. I mean, there's just a certain economics to what he's going to try to do. He's probably going to fire a bunch of people, bring in some new ones, this, that, and the other. The bigger question is, does he self-implode before he even gets that chance? Because right now he's on track to do that.
Why would he self-implode? Listen, Elon's had ups and downs.
He said, I want to run the town square, and by the way, I'm taking sides. That's like, boy, the thing about party politics.
Wait, let's be clear. He decided to leave the Democratic Party and embrace the Republican Party because the Democratic Party has been at war with him and attacking him for months, if not more than a year.
Okay.
So let me ask you this question. Tell me, other than yourself, tell me the name of a prominent Democrat who said anything nice about Elon in the past year.
I don't know, man. I don't track that sort of thing, so it wouldn't have come across my desk.
You're like Occupy Democrats.
Yeah, and
the executive editor of Occupy Democrats.
I'll tell you what. As
there's no national Democrat.
Yeah. Listen, as the executive editor of Occupy Democrats, I have to tell Elon Musk, thank you for sending the clicks. Send more. Okay, but I mean, seriously, like, he wasn't on anybody's radar. He was on his own radar. Okay, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Nobody was out there saying, "Well, we got to get Elon Musk. We're going to take this guy." No, quite the contrary. He's having some beefs. Okay, and yeah, he made some promises that he didn't keep too.
Well, it's just like that sometimes. Why doesn't Joe Biden show himself to be a bigger man and embrace Elon Musk and recognize that Tesla's done good things and SpaceX has done good things? Why doesn't he throw out the olive branch and try to make peace? Why does the Democratic Party have to be at war with the most successful entrepreneur in the country's history, the guy who's created 100,000 jobs? Why is the Democratic Party making war on a guy who's creating jobs and moving us toward sustainable energy?
So look,
because here's the thing. No, I want to hit this.
Few people.
You believe that Barack Obama said that climate change was the greatest threat to humanity, right?
Yes.
Okay. So no one is doing more about accelerating the transition to sustainable energy than Elon Musk. And the Democratic Party, don't give me this grassroots bullshit. The Democratic Party, Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Robert Reich, they've all been attacking Elon Musk, snubbing Elon Musk for more than a year. Why doesn't the Democratic Party embrace the guy who's doing more about climate change than anyone else?
Okay, so you hit the nail on the head with the question. Why are the most liberals going after Elon Musk? For all the reasons that that they're going after him. But that's not the Democratic Party. You're expanding a few very, very pointed critics to the
Joe Biden is not. Joe Biden's the leader of the party.
It's not. Joe Biden's the leader of the party. There's an important saying you need to know about the Democratic Party since you're registered as a Democrat, because you fit right into the Democratic Party with your beliefs. You know why? It's a Will Rogers
I'm a libertarian.
Saying. Will Rogers once said, "I am not a member of any organized party. I am a Democrat. Okay, so you fit right in, Warren. It's like the biggest tent. Okay, the Democratic
Yeah.
Party is like herding cats. And let me explain to you,
You should try
Elon.
libertarians. Libertarians are much worse.
Oh, I don't even think so. But let me just tell
We
you.
have people get naked on the stage at the convention. Come on. We
Okay,
got a guy wearing a
well,
boot. We got a guy wearing an upside down boot on his head.
I think Democrats need more alcohol at their conventions. So they'll get there really fast, like 2 more beers. So you have to understand the dynamics of the Democratic Party to understand what you're talking about. And one of the things that taught me the dynamics very, very quickly was when a personal friend got elected to be the party chair of the local party. And, I had no idea about these things before. And something happened. And I said, "Oh, hey, you're the party chair. Can't you do something about this?" And he goes, "No, Grant, I'm the party chair. That means I have to be neutral on this." I'm like, "But this person's bad." "Yeah, but the chair's job is to be neutral. I'm like the referee, so I could help you, maybe link you up with somebody, but I can't do anything about this."
So the
And I'm
Democratic
just
Party
telling you,
didn't. So the Democratic Party didn't shit on Bernie Sanders during the 2016 primaries and
the
convention.
DNC didn't think, look, he was not taken seriously by the DNC. They didn't shit on him. They just didn't think he had a chance in bloody hell, and they behaved
They
that
interfered.
way. But it's not just that, dude. Do you think that political parties have a mandate to be always fair? They
You
don't.
just said that the chair wouldn't
I'm
do something.
explaining the dynamics, but I'm not saying the entire party. You're missing the point. Okay? So you're blaming Joe Biden as the leader of the National Democratic Party for something. But the way Democrats are, it's like he's just kind of like he's got to be Mr. Neutral on these things. But he's got a lot of constituents that are upset that Elon Musk runs non-union stuff. Okay? They are constituents. Those are voters. Those are donors. Those are people that put Joe Biden in office. He can't not listen to them. You got to respect the political realities of things. That I'm sure he'd love to embrace Elon Musk, but he'd need Elon Musk to embrace something that makes it so that his embrace of Elon Musk doesn't turn off the people that put him in office.
Like electric vehicles are launching astronauts to the space station.
By the same token, you have to understand that place the blame in the particular places, right?
Yeah.
If Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and Robert Reich are going after Elon Musk, three of the people on the farthest end of the liberal spectrum, then just respect it for what the words are, but don't ascribe it to Joe Biden, the party, and all these other things. It's all very particularized.
No,
the Democratic Party it's a field of cats, and very few people herd these cats effectively.
Well, no, the point. Well, actually, I wanted to ask you about something else because I think we've kind of beaten this horse to death. I wanted to ask you about something else because you're in Miami,
Sure.
And the Boring Company, which is another one of Elon Musk's companies, has talked
already.
No,
I'm just kidding.
Elon Musk has a company called the Boring Company that does tunnels.
Yeah.
And they've talked with Mayor Suarez about doing tunnels. I think the Brickell Bridge is supposed to be replaced, and there's talk about the Boring Company doing a tunnel. There's a more publicized project that I think it's FIU Biscayne. There's some from Golden Glades to the beach, from the Golden Glades interchange area to the beach. There's proposal for a tunnel system there, and Fort Lauderdale has been talking about a tunnel system at Las Olas with the Boring Company. Have you heard anything about the Boring Company's efforts in Miami?
There's just been nothing new on that. Miami's underground ecology, I don't think is super conducive to doing a lot of tunneling, and that's why there's so few of them. I mean, they spent $1 billion to put a tunnel 1 mile under the Biscayne Bay to the port. So it's expensive, and the idea that it can be done cheaply, I mean, it'd be great. We just don't have the same geology as Los Angeles or Las Vegas. What works in one place doesn't often work in the others. And I mean, listen, man, I'm not a geologist, but I have spent enough time talking about underground water issues, at least on Miami Beach, to tell you that the water lens is rising in South Florida. That's one of the problems with climate change. And as the water lens rises, that threatens this kind of tunnel system. In fact, there was a plan. Right now, there's a major ongoing replacement of Interstate 395 and I-95 right at the right in downtown Miami. And there were 3 plans that got put forward 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago now when they were talking about doing the different plans. And one of them was really attractive. They were going to take the highway and bury it when it hits downtown and build a tunnel, like a cut and cover tunnel under, like on ground level or on just under in downtown, and then bring it up into a bridge, the bridge over the water. And it got rejected because it was just too much of a hurricane risk for flooding. Right. And so, again, I'm not a geologist, but I could just tell you, like, South Florida's geology is not simple for this kind of thing. I mean, I just think it may be too much to engineer even for the great Elon Musk. And if he could do it, more power to him. But, the threat that we face from climate change is that our drinking water supplies are threatened by the rise of the seas, because the seawater is already intruding on our aquifer and has been for many years, is a well-documented fact. So, I mean, maybe he should think about a sign that prevents saltwater intrusion from our aquifers and then move on to a tunnel after that, because that's really the more pressing issue in South Florida. And as for Mayor Suarez, I'm deeply disappointed. I mean, the guy is profiting mightily off of his mayor's office. I know
isn't he
personally.
isn't he bringing business to Miami? You got Bitcoin Miami. You got the All In podcast was just in Miami. Isn't he bringing a lot of attention to Miami in a good way?
Well, he's bringing a lot of attention to Miami in a good way, sure. But those people have come in, and now the rents are up significantly. My lawyer got
rents
priced
are up.
out of.
Come on, rents are up everywhere. Come on.
My lawyer got priced out of my neighborhood. Okay, after a year, priced out.
You got to get a better lawyer. You got to get a better lawyer.
Hey,
so
this guy is good.
Let me ask you about
nobody is that good.
Let me ask you to make political predictions, because I'm terrible. I want to talk to you about politics for just a second, because the 2022 elections are about 6 months away, or less than 6 months away. And I want to start by saying that I'm always wrong. I predicted that Hillary would win in a landslide in 2016, the morning of election day. I predicted that Hillary would win in a landslide, and obviously I was wrong. And then in 2020, I predicted that Trump would win, and I was wrong. So I'm just always wrong. So my predictions are not worth anything. I want to ask you, we have House and Senate elections coming up in November. Do you think that the House and Senate are going to shift more to the Republicans in this election? Do you have any thoughts on that?
What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm always wrong. So but my prediction is that the Republicans are going to have a landslide win in the House, and they're going to win some seats in the Senate. But
okay, that's comforting.
Let me be clear. My reason for that is I've read stories, and my sources may not be reliable. I'm not saying
making me feel a lot better. Thank you.
No, what I've seen is that some prominent Democrats have decided not to run for re-election. A really good example of that is Ted Deutsch, who's sort of Broward, Palm Beach, lives in my neighborhood.
Yeah, but he's in a safe seat. I mean, that's going to be a Democrat no matter what.
But for whatever reason, he decided not to. Well, maybe he figures we're going to lose the House. He's going to have less influence. And he took a job. Of course, he took a job paying probably $500,000 a year. Who knows how much he's getting paid. So, but a lot of prominent Democrats have decided not to run for re-election. And that's considered by some to be a sign that their polling shows we're going to lose this one. So, yeah, what's your take on it?
Do you want me to call Ted and ask him why?
No. I could probably talk to him quicker than you could.
So, look, here's my prediction. Do not expect anybody's predictions to be fulfilled. This is, historically speaking, yes, there should definitely be a Republican landslide. Okay? We do not know what the Supreme Court is going to ultimately rule about this case in Mississippi, which will decide the fate of Roe v. Wade,
right.
Casey versus Planned Parenthood, what does settled law mean, a lot of stuff. Okay? This is a huge wild card. The ruling is not official yet, right?
Yeah.
But just based on the leaked opinion, the polling has shifted markedly.
Yeah, I think that'll help the Democrats.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you right now, the week before that came out, I was having this exact conversation with some friends. And I was like, look, if the election was today, Democrats would be shellacked. But nobody knows what's going to happen between now and then. That's a political eternity. Events often shape elections more than elections shape events. Okay? And here we have an event that looks like it is really shaping an election. I'm not predicting the Democrats are going to hold on to everything or expand majorities or anything like that, because I think that that's not that's the least likely outcome. I think the most likely outcome is a continuation of our current stalemate. where it's a very thin majority on either side, and we may see mixed control of Congress with a thin majority on one side versus the other. We don't know.
Yeah,
but there's so many unknowns.
The
So
Republicans are probably going to take the Senate because they're really close. The House, the Democrats might hold the House.
You see, I feel like it's the opposite, that
Okay.
the Republicans may have more difficulty taking the Senate because of the different races that are at play, and just the different personalities in each race. But in the House, it's just like there's a lot. I mean, there's so much to do with things that are not like just like anything to do with like what the national conversation is. There are maps in different states, things like that affect the outcome tremendously. Like nobody knows what's going to happen in Ohio. New York just finished a redistricting. I mean, all these, Florida redistricted, and that's all being litigated.
That's in litigation, right? Yeah.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying. So there's so many variables that go into the House, more so than the Senate. The Senate is a much more clear picture in a lot of ways. And it's like, look, Marco Rubio could lose to Val Deming. It is possible. Okay. It's possible. His popularity with the Trump base is not assured, right?
Little Marco.
We're talking about, right, little Marco. We're talking about, the enthusiasm level may not be there. You never know.
I'm not enthusiastic. Right? I've never been enthusiastic. Is anyone ever enthusiastic about Marco?
Oh, in 2010, he was cause for a lot of enthusiasm. So there,
I've never been enthusiastic about Marco. Just for the record, I've never been enthusiastic about Marco.
For example, in Pennsylvania, who is the Republican nominee in the Pennsylvania Senate race?
Is it Oz? Did he win? Do we know?
I don't think we know yet. I mean, we don't. It's like, but you know what? They're waiting for the absentee ballots. Oh, isn't that nice? They could wind up spending the whole summer fighting over absentee ballots. Okay. And the Democrat is going to be out there campaigning.
Do you think that Trump will storm the Pennsylvania governor's mansion to say that the election was stolen? If Oz
definitely.
Doesn't
win? Well, you know what? The election wasn't stolen because his guy won the primary, right?
Right.
Am I right? Wink, wink.
Right. So let me just I just want to mention, just for because people who didn't watch from the beginning, Grant and I have been friends for a long time. We worked together on government accountability years ago. We challenged a checkpoint together. He watched me get arrested. They almost arrested him. We're like brothers in that we fight a lot. But we love each other. So Grant.
Yeah, so Oz is leading by a little bit less than 1,000 votes.
Wow, it's
with
close.
10,000 votes to be counted.
He's gonna win.
You really can't say that.
I don't know. No, 1,000 votes out of 10,000. It's hard to get that big of a margin out of 10,000 votes.
Look, man, look at Pennsylvania.
I will say that
Florida.
primary made libertarians look good.
I guess so. But. So there's a lot of variables there. I mean, here's the funniest thing about that primary. If Oz wins, I think they have the worst chance of winning the seat, because polling shows that Oz has a higher unfavorable rating with Republicans than the Democrat.
Yeah, they'll come around.
I
don't know. You might be right. I mean, I don't
about turnout.
Just to be clear, I don't like Oz. Just full disclosure, I don't like him.
Look, elections are about base turnout, and if the base turnout is weak for Oz, it's going to be bad for their whole party.
Right.
And then you have a governor candidate whose main platform is that elections are not a viable way of choosing elected officials. This could present problems too, the whole ticket for the Republican Party. Yeah. And this is the same problem they had in the Georgia special election as well. And in Georgia, you have the primary coming up between Kemp and it's not Sonny Perdue. It's the other Perdue, David.
Perdue.
Yeah, one of those.
Is it a chicken guy or is it something else?
The chicken guy, yes. Well, one of the chicken. They're all chicken Perdues over there.
Okay.
But former Senator Perdue. But again, nobody knows what's going to happen there. The polling says that Kemp is going to win handily tomorrow. We'll see. Yeah. But do the rest of the Republicans that voted for this guy that stuck with Trump all the way then sit out the general election? We don't know. This kind of dynamic could be playing out in a lot of places all over the country, and there are a lot of Senate seats at stake. Herschel Walker versus Raphael Warnock, for example.
Yeah, he's an interesting character. But
he's a tragic figure as far as I'm concerned.
he was a really good running back, though.
He was a great running back. Jesus, man.
A great
Nobody
running
could
back.
deny that. He could run. I mean, I feel bad for him that he has a diagnosed severe mental illness. But by the same
I didn't know
token,
that.
he's running for a dissociative identity disorder.
I don't know anything about that. So
look that one up.
All right. So I'm just trying to think. I think we've mostly covered what I wanted to talk about with Elon. It sounds like you personally are positive on Elon. You don't think the Democratic Party is really at war with Elon. You think that the grassroots rather than the party itself
I think he's
unhappy.
inflamed the grassroots of the Democratic Party, number one. Number two, the Democratic Party and organized labor really work together a lot. It's no joke. I mean, I just don't think it's a secret. And because of that, like, you have folks that are against organized labor, and there's just going to be a tension there on a political level that's the free market. That is the free market, isn't it? Some businesses, the employees want to form a union, some they don't, right? And there's laws that say, hey, you can't obstruct or whatever. And so you're going to see a lot of that. I'm sorry, it's politics. That's how politics works. And it doesn't mean that Elon Musk is a bad person. I don't think that any Democrat sits around going, Elon Musk is the bad guy.
Why don't the union?
More so now, because he said, well, I'm a Republican. I'm going to put Trump on the platform.
Let's go to this union issue. The union car makers, General Motors and Ford in particular, we'll leave out Dodge / Stellantis or whatever we're calling them this week. They received more. They received more money from the federal government than Tesla did, and they have done squat.
Ford did
yes,
not.
Yes, they received.
Ford did not. Ford did not.
Okay, so General Motors did. No,
yeah.
I'm not talking about the bailout. I'm talking about advanced technology vehicle manufacturing loans. They got
everybody got money from the government. Tesla
right,
did,
but they got more money than Tesla. So why haven't they done more on EVs? Why haven't the unions pushed the unions that supposedly care about climate change? Why haven't they pushed Ford and General Motors to look? Tesla produced 900. Tesla delivered 900. Tesla delivered 936,000 electric vehicles in 2021. General Motors delivered 26 in the fourth quarter. Why aren't the unions pushing, the unions that supposedly care about? First of all, do the unions care about climate change?
Oh, you see, that's a funny story. The unions don't for example, up in Michigan, right? Northern Michigan, there's a Democrat who was there for many, many decades. And I think he retired or whatever. And I was reading about how the unions up there, the iron ore unions, they're not anti-climate change. They're like, hey, we need to extract this ore to do our business. And unfortunately, that's their position. It's a pocketbook issue for them, just like it is for some Republicans.
So, okay? You agree with me? Then
I'm not saying that all the no, I'm not agreeing with you, but I'm just saying that there are unions that do not carry that position. And when it comes to the unions running the big three, hey, I'm all for them pushing for more EVs.
But they're not.
But they are they want the government to help out, right?
But the government helped them more than they helped Tesla, and Tesla's made a heck of a lot more EVs than the union automakers.
And you know what? And I hope that the union automakers catch up, because they're working on it now. And you have to realize it's yeah, they are. The new Ford F-150, the electric one, I think that's going to be the one that changes.
How many are they going to make?
I don't know.
So here's the thing. It sounds to me like in our conversation earlier about Biden had this EV summit and he only had the unions there. Here's what's really going on. The unions Biden cares more about unions than he cares about climate change. That's why he had the union automakers at his EV summit and he ignores Tesla.
Okay. That's the conclusion you draw, but
that's the conclusion I draw.
Okay. The Biden administration's plans all include more advanced clean energy technology, including EVs. The bipartisan infrastructure bill supports expanding EVs to match, because remember, it took 3 big auto manufacturers to make a thriving industry for gasoline automatic cars, but there were more than that before, right? But the barriers to entry to be an EV car company are outrageously high. Let's face it, it's true. The barriers to entry are really
any
high.
car company. The barriers to entry would be any car
company. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, you have to realize that politically, Biden's got to support union jobs. That's just a political fact of life.
So he supports
Okay.
unions rather than supporting the company that is doing more about climate change than any other.
Okay,
He
look.
made a choice. He made a choice to support the unions over
Because if he
supporting the fight
doesn't,
against climate change.
because if he doesn't, then those manufacturers have no incentive to do more about EVs because they're selling their gas
They've
cars
had
already.
incentives for years and they don't do it. Look at General
And you know,
Motors. General
now
Motors
hold on a
killed
second.
the EV.
You know what killed the EV when the Trump administration came on board?
No, before
They,
that.
hold on. They had problems and whatever. They did things in the past. But Trump showed up
They didn't
and
want
changed.
EVs.
Let's talk about the cafe, my friend. Drink the coffee with me.
Cafecito.
Trump lowered all the cafe standards when he came into office against the wishes of the manufacturers. Okay, those cafe standards were designed to encourage EV growth by limiting the amount of gasoline that we're using. And here we are. Okay, here we are 4 years later. The car companies took advantage of it because what would happen if gas cars?
The car companies that Biden embraced.
What would happen if the car companies that rely on gas cars suddenly didn't take advantage of the cafe standard change? Their shareholders would sue them. Okay, that's how the market works. So the government has to move the market by creating incentives. And that's what's happening. Okay, overall, Elon Musk's company is a tech company that sells cars, right?
Yeah.
If he really was trying to make more money, maybe he'd just start selling batteries to the big three and expanding their capacity.
There aren't enough batteries.
Will happen.
There aren't enough batteries.
Why not?
Because battery supply, there's just a huge challenge logistically to produce more batteries just generally.
And that's why Elon Musk wants to fly out to an asteroid and collect up all the materials we need and bring them here, right?
Nothing to do with asteroid mining. All the minerals we need are in the Earth's crust. We just have to increase mining and increase refining to produce more of that stuff. And Tesla's working on that.
And it ain't easy. And there's a lot of trade issues. I've been tweeting a lot about this solar issue where you have this tiny company that doesn't create any solar panels, but they create complaints very effectively. And it's stopping the import of 80% of the solar panels for the United States. There's a lot of issues. Solar issues are so complicated. Clean energy issues are so complicated.
So why isn't Joe Biden fixing that problem?
He's trying. He's got a whole.
What do you mean he's trying? He's president. He's president. He's got the Democratic majority in the House.
Because guess what? In the American system, the president is not a king.
It would be nice if that was true. I'd love to go back to that. It would be
nice. I think we saw what happens when the president has too much, when you have a unitary executive, when you have people in government that believe they should defer in all things to one man. Okay? But I'm just telling you, like, these kind of political issues, they're thorny. Like, if they invite Tesla to this event with the union people, now you're sparking a war. Now you are literally sparking a war. Politically speaking, that's much worse. So what would somebody at
so shitting on Elon
want?
And Tesla and 100,000 employees?
Shitting is not the same as just saying, well, we're not going to cause a war. We're not going to cause a problem.
All right.
I mean, that's just how it is.
So I think we probably covered everything I want. Is there anything else you wanted to say before we wrap up? Because first of all, I want to thank you for your time. But is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
I mean, first of all, I'd invite all your followers to go to my website, grantstern.com. You can find my books there, my newsletter, all of my columns, all the websites I manage, all that stuff.
Link in the description below, grantstern.com.
Yeah. And please follow me on Twitter at Grant Stern. I love to debate stuff, although I may not see your specific tweet unless you super follow me. I see every super follower's tweets because I only have like 10 super followers. Aren't you going to be number 11, bro?
I need to get some super followers.
I see the super followers replies. So if you really want to get a reply, like go ahead and super follow and I will see your stuff more. I
haven't figured out the super follower thing yet. All right. And just really quick, anything else before we wrap up?
No, I mean, thanks for having me on. I think it's a great issue. I think people need to discuss it. I really hope that the Elon Musk deal is resolved because I think it's just bad for Elon and bad for Twitter to have everything up in the air.
Yeah.
And
all right.
If he takes over, hey, you know, he could do a lot of good things as long as he just sees that the guy in charge of the town square needs to be somewhat neutral.
All right, cool. And then just really quick, I want to thank everybody for watching. Please support this channel on the Locals platform, on Patreon, or as a YouTube channel member. Check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. Check out my other videos. And thank you so much for watching. And now I'm going to end the stream. And I'm going to stop recording.